getting divorced, and my soon-to-be ex-husband doesn't want me to have custody of the kids. I'm like in shock. The second I read it, I started breaking down crying. Like, I literally just got the papers 5 minutes ago. This is his proposed parenting plan. That I have visitation, supervised visitation of my own kids once a month, on Saturday and Sunday from 9 to 3.
Congratulations, madam. You are now being treated like a man. Okay, it's always really funny when you see these videos of girls who are going through a divorce and things don't seem to go their way, and all of a sudden they regret it. Yo, what is going on, guys? I hope you are all doing well. So on today's episode, we are going to be covering a TikTok story from this woman right here. I haven't listened to the whole story yet, so we'll be watching it together for the first time. But it seems as though she regrets her divorce, okay? It seems like she's going to lose her kids, maybe not have access to them, whatever the case may be, but you know, she's going through a divorce right now, and typically speaking, you know, statistic-wise, women are the ones who are initiating these divorces. If you guys are unfamiliar, typically over 80% of divorces are initiated by women. And a lot of women come to regret this fact, okay? Their husband, either he ends up doing better or she doesn't get what she wants, and she has returned to the streets. So let's take a listen to what this woman has to say. As always, guys, don't forget to go and subscribe to Hadan for sending us today's video to cringe at, and let's just jump right in and see if she's in the wrong or if she's in the right. Let's take a listen.
I'm divorced, and my soon-to-be ex-husband doesn't want me to have custody of the kids. I'm like in shock. The second I read it, I started breaking down crying. Like, I literally just got the papers 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, see, imagine how men feel in this situation when this happens to a lot of married men who become divorced all of the damn time. You know what the difference is as well in this situation? The men typically don't get custody of their kids, or if they do, it's not the, you know, not really the best visitation wise, okay? Maybe they see the kids like once a week for a couple of days on the weekends, or once every couple of weeks or something like that. You know, men are typically the ones who lose out in situations like these. Now, I feel great empathy for the child or the children in question here, but I don't feel any empathy for this woman in particular. I'm going to have to pause here now because, quite frankly, I am losing some brain cells. But you know what I won't be losing, guys? Skin cells, which is why today's episode and my awful transition here is brought to you by Tiege Hanley. For those of you guys who are new or returning to the channel, Tiege Hanley is a skincare company that helps men do uncomplicated skincare. Their whole thing is that they make the process really simple, and personally, I have been using them for a long time, even before they sponsored this channel, because of this reason. They have different systems, but personally I think a good place to start is with their level 1 system, where you get all of their basic stuff. You get a daily face wash to remove all of the dirt and grime on your skin. You get an exfoliating scrub that helps you remove dead skin. And on top of that, you also get an AM and a PM moisturizer to help with sun exposure and skin hydration throughout the night, respectfully. Tiege Hanley is a great choice for skincare because everything is super simple. The box it comes in has an instruction card that explains how to use everything. So even if you are an avid TikTok user with the attention span of, you know, 6 seconds or so, you can probably use it too. They have tons of 5-star reviews on their website from all over the world, which you can find on their website. And I'll even throw up some screenshots here for you now so you can see for yourself if you can't be bothered heading to their reviews section. When you become a member of Tiege Hanley, you also get extra stuff like 20% off the retail price. You can customize your box, you get deals that nobody else gets, and of course you can cancel or change your order at any time if you change your mind. If you're a US citizen as well, you also get free shipping on top of all that. And guys, because Tiege Hanley is sponsoring today's video, they are offering you a great deal. All you have to do is click the link in the video description for 30% off of your first box, as well as a free gift. The free gift comes in the form of either a free DOP kit or a high quality dowel, so don't miss out and click that link to get started today. But let's get back to today's episode.
This is his proposed parenting plan. That I have visitation, supervised visitation of my own kids once a month, on Saturday and Sunday from 9 to 3. And I'm like flabbergasted because I was the primary caretaker, primary parent of our kids for the past 5 years.
Damn, so you must have done something. He must think you're crazy to be once a month. He really does not want you to have those kids. Very interesting here, very interesting. So she was the primary caregiver, she thinks, so maybe he was out working, making all of the bread. I don't particularly know their situation, but he's basically come along and said, hey, listen, what I suggest or what I want out of this situation is I don't want you to see the kids at all. And when you do see the kids, it has to be supervised. Now, as far as I understand in these situations, when the ruling becomes supervised visitation, typically that means one of the parents, there's some questionable stuff going on there. Like if it's a woman that requires supervised visitation, my alarm bells are going off.
Past 5 years. The past 5 years, I have been the primary parent, and now he doesn't want me to have custody at all. Or I don't even know if does visitation count as custody. I literally have no idea. When I filed for divorce,
there it is. All right, this is the wonderful thing about modern day marriage, is that you can have people, you can have women lock down a dude, marry a guy who's successful or whatever, and then hey, even if he's not successful, the point still stands, but you can just leave at any given point in time and try and take the kids away from the guy or try and take his resources. Okay, and it's not uncommon that women walk away from these situations with one or both of those things. Okay, because we have no-fault divorce these days, typically in Western countries, guys, which means that women can divorce you, right? Men can divorce too, of course, but we tend to do it way less. But women can divorce you simply because of irreconcilable differences. I believe that's what it's filed as. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. But you can literally just file for divorce simply because you feel like it. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to be a short process or that it's going to be overnight or anything like that. But the fact of the matter is you can have people leave marriages simply because they feel like it. And here's the thing about this, guys. It's like people always say, well, I'm leaving him because he's a narcissist and he's an awful man. And my question every time I hear that is, okay, if he's so awful, maybe you're right. Maybe he's an awful man. Maybe he's a terrible guy. Why did you get with him in the first place? And it's always like, oh, he changed out of the blue. But I guarantee you, right? Like if this guy was an awful man, you would know pretty quickly if you were using your common sense. But we just ignore the red flags or we just make them up.
I wanted to do 50-50 parenting plan. And since I have relocated to Florida, I'm staying with a friend, that oh my god, I'm just so fucking annoyed. I did 50-50, right? A month on, month off, so there's not much transfer. I'm so annoyed. Actually, now I'm just realizing that the reason why he was able to file is because I gave him my address. I let him know where I was living, and that's why he was able to file, and that's why he wasn't fucking to me. I'll show you the text messages right now. Here's.
Yeah, so before she even jumps into the text messages here, I've just got a whole bunch of red flags right here. This kind of outbreak is not that of a particularly sane person. So what, she thinks that because she gave him her address, which presumably is in Florida, that gave him the ability to do this. Yeah, let's take a listen. Let's take a look at these screenshots. And before we even look at these screenshots, by the way, guys, please understand that in a lot of these situations, whenever you see people show screenshots on social media, usually it's women, there's always something missing. It always paints the guy out to be like some bad dude or like he's in the wrong, but you never see any context surrounding it. So just take this with a grain of salt and let's take a look.
with me and him. Monday, he texts me, "Are you staying with Rachel, my friend?" And he knows where Rachel is. I said, "Yes," and I referred to a question. I referred to a fucking question. You know when Monday was? The 21st, and he filed on the 22nd. I'm actually so pissed at myself. All I will.
Yeah, so he saw that you were basically in Florida and you left, and I don't know, this must have violated something and he took it as the chance to get rid of your ass. Makes sense to me, to be honest.
All I wanted was to have a conversation to see where his head was at, what he was doing. He said that, "Oh, I don't think the kids are ready to see you."
This is interesting because she says that she just wants to see where his head is at and she just wants to have a conversation. Sounds to me like this guy is done having conversations with you. Right? This language right here, I'm going to pull back up the screenshots. This is the language of a guy who's not interested in the games and the bullcrap anymore. You know, he asked this because he knew that he could file in a particular way, I presume, to get custody of the kids. This was pretty blunt here. "I'm going to bed now," so she doesn't like completely lose it at him, it seems. Right? These are the texts of a guy who is not particularly interested in communicating with you anymore, for one reason or another. Now, I'm getting, to be honest with you, gentlemen, I'm getting absolutely psycho vibes from this woman right here.
All I wanted was to have a conversation to see where his head was at, what he was doing. He said that, "Oh, I don't think the kids are ready to see you." And this is why I didn't want him finding my location. I literally, like, did not explicitly tell him my location. And then the second I gave him my location, he stopped responding to me at all and went ahead and filed this god-awful parenting plan so that I don't have my fucking kids anymore. Like, what the fuck? He literally, right before I left, was getting a job where he was working Monday through Friday. Previously, he had a more flexible schedule. He was going to work Monday through Friday so I can watch the kids Monday through Friday while he watches them on the weekends, which I'm pretty sure that's 70-30, right? In percentages. Like, what the actual...
I mean, so there's another clip here, but you do understand that this guy, when he's working, it's really interesting, right? Because women don't seem to understand, or a lot of these girls who make these videos, they're like, "Man, I'm doing all of the labor, I'm looking after the kids." And my question is, okay, you don't think that putting a roof over their heads, you know, providing for the family is also taking care of the kids? You see, but she thinks that because she looked after the kids the majority of the time, that she deserves to have them. Now, I don't know their particular situation, okay? I'm getting very bad vibes, as it were, from this particular woman. And this guy just seems absolutely fed up with her. But, you know, I don't know them both well enough to pass any particular judgment here, other than I don't like the situation and I don't trust this woman, not one bit. But this is the actions of a guy who's absolutely fed up with everything. And I want to highlight one more thing here, okay? This is a situation that typically men go through, and typically they're not crazy. You see what I'm saying? Like, men can go through the divorce process, literally be sane individuals who, you know, who are for the most part just normal dudes, and they still won't get custody of their kids, and it'll go to the woman, and then he'll have to pay money to the woman. Right? So it's really hard for me to have any sort of empathy for these women who get a divorce. So she filed for the divorce again, keep that in mind. And then, you know, and then complain and regret about it after the fact. I personally do not care at all. But let's continue on to this next clip here, and we might jump into a Reddit story after this one here. But this is another divorced woman who's going to be telling us about her her experiences. Let's take a listen.
I have a story to tell. Oh my gosh, y'all. So last night I had a date and I had seen an advertisement for this app that had like a built-in silent panic alarm. So like you get in this app, you put in like people that you trust to send your location. And then also if you're in trouble, there's this button that you hold and it basically is a silent panic alarm and like gets you help right away. I was like, that's really smart. I think that's a great idea. So I added to my phone. I put in my 2 friends and my mom as my contacts. And
I'm going to pause it here before we continue, because I'm just struggling to care. Like I'm struggling so hard, guys, to actually give a crap. It's amazing to me how people will record themselves and post it publicly online to TikTok and just talk about absolute nonsense that's really only relevant to them, and then be like, yeah guys, just wanted to update you with my life. Like nobody's watching this. Maybe this woman's like friend that she's had for like 2 decades who watches it out of pity or something, but I don't imagine people are sitting here watching this.
And I go on my merry way, head off to my date, head down the road to a restaurant, get in there, text my date, and I'm like, hey, I'm here. And he's like, yeah, me too. I'll meet you at the front of the door. And I'm like, okay. And so I'm like, oh, I better share my location with my contacts. So I hop in the app and I go bloop, bloop, bloop. And I shared my location with my 3 contacts. Head into the restaurant. No big deal. To get in there, and we're standing there waiting for a table, and my friend calls me, and she's like, I see the phone ringing, and I'm like, why is she calling me?
Oh my goodness, woman. I see why she's divorced. Like I can't hold it in, guys. I'm switching to the Reddit story. I've had enough. Oh my goodness. Let me find this Reddit story and pull it up, because I'm not watching this anymore. Holy hell, that was insufferable. I can't possibly imagine why these people are divorced. But let's jump into this Reddit story. Now, if you guys aren't familiar, we were covering this yesterday, but it's a bit of a lengthy one. So let's just jump in and kind of reacquaint ourselves here, okay? So this is a divorce from a few years ago now. And it's a woman who, you know, divorces her husband, and then within 6 months, she's now regretting the situation, okay? So let's just recap here. Blah, blah, blah. She's trying to give advice here. There was no use. They were together for 8 years. She started earning more money than the guy. And then she started to resent him, felt as though he wasn't doing enough. And then she also started talking to a guy at work, right? As you can see here, I used that same thing to justify when I started talking to another man at work. So let's continue down here and see what exactly happens. So this, the husband did something nice, and she says, this would have made me swoon a couple of years earlier, but that night I couldn't even look at him, and I pretended to be sick. I spent the rest of the night in bed while he waited on me and checked on me and even made me different food and brought it to me in bed. It made me feel terrible, and then it made me angry that he made me feel that way, and by the end of the night, I was texting the other man. So this is the husband who wants to make things work. He's trying to get things to work, but the girl resents him. Because she, you know, she's got a better position in her work now, and she feels as though he's not doing enough around the house. So over the next month or two from that night, it did not matter what he did. He was just wrong for breathing most days. He would get so upset with how I was treating him, and I would just wait and egg him into losing it because I knew it would happen eventually. After most of the nights we had, he would apologize for whatever I told him he did wrong, if there was even something, but I never did. I would usually find a way to make him feel even worse. I knew that I was right because he was wrong, and that was all that mattered to me. So this woman, I said last episode, is just a complete and utter demon. She uses the fact that she resents the guy as justification for being a piece of human garbage to this particular man. I even pretended that I didn't care when he found out about my relationship with the guy from work. It really destroyed me inside to see him holding back tears, but I wasn't going to let him see that. He was at his weakest, and that is when I chose to tell him that I wanted a divorce. I could see that he was trying, and occasionally I would let him know, but for the most part, I kept being a huge B to him for any and all reasons that I could think of. I'm not sure how much more the man could have done to make me happy, besides finding a job that paid enough for me to not have to work at all. Right? This is just amazing, okay? Now, I mentioned last episode as well that I'm not sure if this Reddit story in particular is just complete satire or not, but the fact remains that situations like this happen a lot, okay? Dudes will be in a relationship with a woman, and he either loses his job or the woman starts earning more, and then all of a sudden an obscene amount of disrespect starts happening in the relationship. So she basically just treats this guy like dirt, and justifies it to herself. So the solution, by the way, to this, at least in her mind, is that he gets a job and makes it so that she doesn't have to work anymore. This woman is a piece of work, man. He said that he was looking, but looking and finding are two different things. It was around this time that I discovered this group and a few others. I started posting things about him from my perspective only, and I got so much positive feedback for how I was feeling that I knew I was right. This reminds me of like those girls who have they're in a relationship, right, and it's going well, they're married or they've been together for a long time, and then you'll see women's friends who are single come along and try and sabotage that relationship, right? So, you know, Cindy and Bob might be together, but Cindy goes out and her girlfriends tell her how awful Bob is and how, you know, Dave over here would treat her so much better. And then all of a sudden she's cheating on Bob with Dave, right? This has the exact same kind of feel to it as that, where, like, I've pulled up the wrong screen here, goodness. Where these people just, they sabotage relationships, right? She's come to Reddit, she's been reinforced for being a piece of crap and how he wasn't doing much. She probably came on here, wrote about how she felt as though he wasn't doing much around the house, and then all the people would just be like, yeah, divorce him. And here we are. The more I posted, the more validation that I got. It wasn't just me who knew that my ex-husband wasn't worth keeping around. I had the whole internet telling me how horrible he is. Again, don't particularly care. And the reason for this is because it's kind of painting it as though she takes no accountability here. Well, I was convinced by the internet to divorce my husband. You're an idiot. I started saying awful things to him and even outright ignoring him. I was so confident with mine and everyone else's opinion that I contacted a lawyer and within a couple of weeks had filed for divorce. I continued to use this site and a couple of others to validate my feelings and for encouragement to go through with it, and it was finally done. Let's keep going. It went pretty smoothly. The ex-husband didn't ask for much besides not get divorced and try to work it all out. I don't know why this guy's trying to work it out. This is a woman who's cheated on him as well, by the way, with the dude at work, and he's still trying to make it work, which, of course, if someone ever cheats on you guys, you know, I would suggest never trying to make it work ever. I didn't care about that, though. He was broken, but I was free. I could do whatever I wanted without having to feel any guilt or answer to anybody. It was an amazing feeling of freedom. It didn't last long, though. In the first month after he moved out, I missed garbage day 3 times. There was also rarely a single clean dish, and the laundry sat in piles so long that I had to start doing the sniff test to see if it could be worn again. I also never saw my kids more miserable. Wow, so we ruined our family, we hate our living situation, we've depressed the kids, excuse me, de-worded the kids, and, you know, now we're starting to regret things. My oldest son had seen some of the messages from the other guy months earlier, and she knew that the ex-husband still wanted to try and work it out. It didn't take her long to stop talking to me at all, except to say that she wanted to go to the ex-husband's house. Good child. Good. So the oldest figured out that she's a piece of crap and then wanted nothing to do with her. Makes absolute sense to me. The others all told me that they wanted to live with the ex-husband too. So all the kids are abandoning this woman because they figured out that she was such a piece of crap. I did my best to try and make them happy, but I ended up just buying them toys all the time and the happiness only lasted minutes. I also was having a lot of trouble with work. Being alone, I couldn't work all those extra hours that I was expected to. I finally gave in and started calling the ex-husband to watch the kids. He would always come over as soon as he could, and he always asked me if I needed anything. This is, you know, this guy, I said this in the last episode too, I'm pretty sure, but he's lacking a lot of self-respect here. You know, asking the woman if she needs anything, trying to treat her well, trying to make things work when this woman has treated you as though she's an absolute demon because she is downright obscene to me. When I would get home, I would find clean dishes and laundry and even dinner sometimes. He would never say too much after I got home. He would just say to call him if I needed anything and leave. One night, he took out the garbage and brought it to the curb because it was garbage night and I forgot again. He always looked so sad when it was time to go. This woman is awful, man. Finally, after a couple of months, my friends convinced me to go out on a date. What fantastic friends you have, by the way. Sarcasm, but anyway. It was for dinner and a movie, and I was excited and hopeful, but at dinner I started getting a feeling of overwhelming guilt. It got so bad that I ended up not even going to the movie. I don't know why this woman is choosing now to have the guilt, especially when she cheated on him earlier, but whatever. A week and about 1 million tears later, I was on a therapist's couch. I told her everything that had happened, starting with the promotion that I got at work. She did not agree with me or with any of the encouragement to the divorce that I got. I ended up in her office 2 and sometimes 3 times a week. This therapist is making bank off of this absolute clown. And the more I talked to prove that I was right, the more I started to see how wrong I was. It was truly heartbreaking. She spelled truly wrong here, I believe. I don't know if I cried as much in my whole life as I did in the first month in her office. After about $2,000 worth of therapy sessions, I learned that my ex-husband had his faults, but I figured out that mine were so much worse. Round of applause for the demon woman, guys. Just kidding. She's still awful. That is crazy. It takes you this, you know? Like, it takes you $2,000 to realize that you're a piece of crap. That's absolute insanity. I did so many awful things and said so many awful things that I wouldn't want to be with me, but he did. I still remember him asking me in the meeting with the lawyer to please not go through with it. I did go through with it though, and then later I bragged on here of how great I felt. I was so wrong, and now I can see it. A couple weeks ago, I went outside with him when he was leaving the house. I asked him about getting back together. When he looked at me, his eyes were full of tears and a couple went down his cheeks. He told me that he didn't know if he could. Smart man. He can't. You see, he knows, this guy knows, right? When you're in a relationship with someone and they do something that just completely fractures your trust in them, you know, makes you see them as a completely different individual, right? Crosses a boundary that should never be crossed, such as cheating, infidelity. I keep switching to the wrong screen, man. When this happens, you can't get back together with the person, in my opinion. Like, you're literally just torturing yourself, to be honest. You know, have some self-respect and walk away from the situation would be my suggestion. So he says he doesn't know if he could. Finally, perhaps growing a bit of a backbone here. He said that the pain has been too much for too long, and that if we got back together that I might just turn around and do it to him again. She would, by the way. He said that he always thought that I would realize how much he loved me and stop up until I signed the divorce papers, and let out a big, over-exaggerated sigh of relief. He said that hurt him more than anything else, and he doesn't know if he can ever trust me again. I don't blame him. I destroyed a man who was, looking back, a great husband. I deprived my kids of having a great father in the house with them, and I took his kids away from him. And me, the only one who pushed for the divorce, expecting happiness and a life of freedom, spent all of my free time sitting at home or sitting on a therapist's couch. Please don't take the advice of anyone on this site or any others about getting a divorce. If your marriage is bad, look at yourself first and see if you can make changes. This is advice for men and women. Here's the thing. When people, you know, they do stuff like this and they act like complete awful human beings and demons, if they turn around at the end and they're like, hey guys, I have some advice for you. Even if the advice is completely correct and it seems like the right thing to do, I will just straight up ignore the advice simply because it's coming from that person's mouth. You see what I'm saying, guys? Like, I don't want to hear it. It could be the best advice in the world. Personally, I'm not listening. I'm going to come to whatever conclusions I come to by myself, not because you said it, right? I don't listen to awful people. That's not something I enjoy doing, right? If people come on here and they, you know, they act like pieces of crap and they treat other people absolutely terribly and they ruin their kids' lives and they ruin a dude's life, and then at the end they go, hey guys, here's this piece of advice I have. Even if it's the best piece of advice ever, I'm just not going to listen to it simply because it comes from such a horrendous human being. That's just me, guys. I'm really stubborn, but I'm sorry. I don't listen to people like this. I just don't. I'll probably come to the conclusion on my own, but I won't listen to them. If your marriage is bad, look at yourself first, blah, blah, blah. Getting divorced is not fun. Being divorced is not fun. And seeing your husband broken and your children never happy because of your actions is the most painful experience that I can imagine. I wish you all well and hope that you will give your marriages a second chance. Shut the hell up. All right, absolute insanity, guys. I covered this this story in the episode probably before this one, depending on when it gets released. Make sure you go and check that out if you'd like to see the first half of that. But some people out here, guys, are just absolute demons, and they don't deserve good men at all. But guys, we're going to be leaving today's episode there. As always, remember to leave your thoughts and your comments. Make sure you take care of yourselves, and I'll be seeing you all in the next episode. Peace.